Okay, let's talk about a guy who was, and I'm not exaggerating here, the architect of the modern English language. His name was Samuel Johnson, and in the 18th century, he looked at the wild, sprawling, messy language we all spoke and decided to give it some rules. He basically built the foundation we're all still standing on today. But just stop and think about that for a second. How do you even begin to define an entire language when there are no official rules? Imagine trying to write an email when spell check doesn't exist because there's no correct spelling, or when words can mean one thing to you and something totally different to someone else. That was the chaos. So who could possibly step in and bring order to all of that? Well, the answer was Samuel Johnson, a man with a massive intellect and, as we'll see, just an unbelievable amount of grit. This is the story of the man who took on the absolutely monumental task of taming English. To really get it, you've got to picture the English language back then as a kind of Wild West. Seriously. There was no single go-to guide. Spelling was all over the place, meanings were shifting constantly, and how people used words, well, that varied from town to town. The language was crying out for a sheriff, for a rule book, for a dictionary. And that, of course, brings us to Johnson's masterpiece. We're talking about his dictionary. And this wasn't just another book. No way. This was a project of truly epic proportions. It took him nearly a decade to pull it off. So what does a project like that even look like? Well, for starters, it looks like this number. Johnson, working pretty much by himself, defined roughly 40,000 words. Just let that sink in for a second. 40,000. And again, he did this almost single-handedly. This was a whole decade of just relentless, grinding work. I mean, can you imagine? From coming up with the plan to slogging through the alphabet, letter by painful letter, for 9 straight years. Finally, in 1755, a dictionary of the English language was published. But here's the real game changer. It wasn't just what Johnson did, it was how he did it. He didn't just write down a dry definition. He showed you how words were actually used. He was the first person to pull quotations from the great writers, Shakespeare, Milton, to show a word's meaning in its natural habitat. It was a brilliant way to show how a word really lives and breathes. This completely set the standard for every single dictionary that came after it. And you just can't talk about Johnson without talking about his incredible wit. He even snuck it into his own dictionary. Get this, his definition for lexicographer, his own job, is a harmless drudge. It's that mix of genius-level intellect and not taking himself too seriously that just makes him such an amazing figure. But Johnson was so much more than a harmless drudge. He was also this incredibly deep poet and philosopher who used that amazing command of language to dig into what it really means to be human. Pretty early in his career, he wrote a poem called London, and it is sharp. It's a satirical takedown of the city's corruption and moral rot. This wasn't just flowery language. This was powerful social commentary that put him on the map as a major literary voice. But maybe his greatest poem is The Vanity of Human Wishes. It's this deep philosophical dive into how our biggest ambitions, for power, for money, for fame, are often totally misguided and, in the end, don't really lead to happiness. It's a powerful message that, let's be honest, still hits home today. He took that idea even further in his novella, Restless. It's about a prince who has this perfect life but leaves to find what true happiness is, only to be disappointed at everywhere he looks. Johnson's conclusion is pretty sobering. This hunt for perfect, lasting happiness is itself the problem. A meaningful life is really about accepting that things won't be perfect. So, he defined our language, he philosophized about our lives, but he also changed how we talk about books. It's not a stretch to say Johnson basically invented modern literary criticism as we know it. See, for Johnson, literature wasn't just for fun. He had this core belief that its main job was to teach us something, to be morally useful, and to hold up a mirror to human nature, showing us who we are, warts and all. It wasn't just about the story. It was about what the story did to you. And you can see this perfectly in what he wrote about William Shakespeare. He wasn't just a fanboy. On the one hand, he praised Shakespeare's absolute genius for capturing real human emotions. But on the other hand, he wasn't afraid to call him out for having messy plots or for not having a clear moral purpose. This kind of balanced, tough but fair analysis was totally new, and it laid the groundwork for how we study literature today.
So when you put it all together, the dictionary, the poetry, the criticism, you start to see this truly massive legacy, one that, believe it or not, still shapes our world right now.
I mean, just look at the scale of his impact. It's kind of mind-blowing. He standardized our language. He created the blueprint for every dictionary on your shelf. He set a new standard for how we talk about books, and he wrestled with the biggest questions about life. He didn't just study literary history, he made it. In the end, what Johnson did wasn't some temporary fix. It was a foundation, a stable, solid bedrock. And for more than 250 years, the English language has been building and growing on top of the structure he gave it. Which kind of leaves us with one last thought. Johnson literally wrote the rulebook for English. But think about our world now, with texting, emojis, slang, and global communication changing everything. Are we even playing by his rules anymore? Or are we writing a whole new chapter? Something to think about. Thanks for joining.